Hi guys, I'm Grandmaster Levan Aroshidze. Um, for a long time I haven't been on YouTube because of some personal reasons, but now hopefully, finally I will start to give you some interesting material and much more frequently than I was doing in the past. I want to start today video series dedicated on the Catalan individual championship that I played last month. It was a elimination system. Uh, Two players are playing a mini match with each other with white color and the black color with different time controls. First the classic, then the rapid, then the blitz, and finally the one player has to win and continue fighting for the championship. Well, these type of tournaments are always very tough, and okay, for me especially because the last strong tournament I don't remember when I played it. I'm working on this and want to start showing some good result for the August. So let's see how things will go. And now let's don't talk too much about this preview and let's start immediately our work. By the way, I want to apologize about the camera quality. I have bought a new laptop, but even though it was not cheap at all, uh, I don't like the camera. I don't know what's the point, what's the problem, but in the near future I'll try to solve this problem. Now, let's start. In the first round I was playing against my own pupil, very dangerous guy, Danny Garcia, and probably it was the one of the main and most difficult matches for me in this championship. Um, First game I played with white, and let's go. Let's go. I will be explaining some interesting moments about the opening and give you some, well, hints about the middle games and different ideas. So, e4, my favorite move. e5, knight f3, knight c6. We went for the classical Spanish variation. Castle, bishop b7, rook e1, b5, bishop b3, and d6. So this move shows to me that my opponent doesn't plan to play martial attack, which would be castle, and if c3, even though there are many other moves, d5, this famous pawn sacrifice, that doesn't seem easy for white at all. So black gets a good compensation. So, okay, anyway, he played d6. Now black wants to play, oops, sorry. Now after d6 he wants to play knight a5. So that's why white already plays c3 to open c2 square for the bishop. So okay, castle h3. Okay, it's very popular to play here h3, avoiding bishop g4 before we go d4 and knight a5. This is a Chigorin variation. Bishop c2, c5, d4. The idea of the Chigorin variation is very simple. Knight goes to the corner, not a very good position, but it is done in order to connect the pawn structure and get more flexibility there. And knight e7. This is a modern type of playing in the Chigorin. The old move was queen c7. And normally after queen c7, d5, knight on a5 looks like a little bit stuck there. Okay, the life and the future of this knight is absolutely unclear, and maybe this is the main disadvantage of this variation. Even though there is a knight d2 continuation also instead of d5. However, I was always playing d5 in these lines, and okay, knight e7. What is the point of this move? Now, after logical knight d2, d5 is another move that I played in the game. Black wants to exchange on d4, and we get very sharp and absolutely not forced lines. And there is a lot of things here to discover. More or less nowadays, white was playing d5, knight e5, a4, rook b8, exchanging here. f4, knight f3. Okay, we take the center, but black occupies the dark squares here, and bishop g3. The position is really very tough to understand, absolutely asymmetrical, and okay, white loves here to play f5 in this position. It seems like what you are doing, it's like a mistake positionally, right? You are giving up e5 square, you are making your bishop really a passive piece. But the point is that now, after knight e5, white is going for a crazy attack with the knight g5, and during the last few years, white has won a lot of beautiful games and quite against strong players. Even Peter Svidler lost here with black. He played in this position bishop h4 and now just f6. Very powerful continuation. And after h6, white even don't plan to come back with the knight. Just queen h5, and black king feels helpless on the king side. Of course, the main point is the pawn f6 that blocks, separates, wherever you want, black king from rest of his pieces, and help is not coming in time. Okay, there is also another move, knight d7. Oops, here, knight d7. The idea of the knight d7 is that probably black wants to occupy e5 square with the bishop and f6 possibly with the knight. But now another surprising and very strong strike comes, knight h7 and f6. And now we see the idea. This bishop is very strong now. g6, queen g4. Black keeps extra piece for now, but after check and bishop g5, again this pawn is a killer piece. And when I was looking at these lines with the computer, it's like probably white is winning here. But the problem is another move, just natural h6. That was played with the Banush against Aroshidze recently. Okay, white continued f6. He even won the game, but after pawn takes, there is nothing better just coming back with the knight on f3. And king g7. Yeah, king's position is weak. There are double pawns. But still extra pawn. If something happens with pawn h6, rook h8 is also possible. And black has a monster position in the center. And now, right now, this bishop is, of course, is a bad bishop. So, I don't know. I am not sure about this position that white has nothing. White has anything. I would consider that it's more or less equality dynamically, and black is okay. But okay, maybe some players will find strong new ideas here. Right now, the future of the line is quite unclear. So, okay, I had an imagination about these lines, but I was not sure. I didn't remember this. And I decided to go for some calm d5. Oops, here, d5. Well, okay, this move looks absolutely logical, and it seems like, and why shouldn't play d5 here? Why d5 is logical after, let's say, queen d7 instead of queen c7 instead of knight d7, and not now. The point is that pawn d5 suddenly can appear in a dangerous situation. Black can play knight b6, and with quick f5 destroy white's center, and then go attack for the d5. And it really seems scary as white doesn't have b3, c4 possibilities. We clearly see that c4 square is perfectly controlled with the black pieces. But the trick and the good point of this move is that quick f5 actually is not working. It's an illusion. So as nowadays this variation is quite popular for black, it's very sharp and goes for the three results, I would recommend you to practice d5. And it's a good, very strong positional trap, and 90% of the players fall in this trap by pushing quick f5. Okay, knight d2, and this is what my opponent did also. It seems so natural to play f5 and go quickly attacking, hunting d5 pawn before white will finish his development that it's tough to not make that move. However, probably black will a little bit delay, f5, even though this is always possibility and probably the main idea for black here. And there are possibilities to play first bishop d7 or g6 and to play f5 on the later stage of the game. That's more complicated, I guess, and gives black better chances. But what happens if he goes f5? Now after f5, of course we exchange here, and knight e4 should be done. This is a monster position of the knight. And of course queen d7. Now black's idea is to connect the rooks, and at the same time, and I guess number one threat is queen b7. And we don't know what to do with pawn d5. But the good point of this position and this main positional trap that we are talking about so long is opportunity of playing b3 here. And then suddenly black realizes that queen b7 is not a good move. Because we have surprising c4, and we can say that Tarash about the bad knights in the corner of the board was right. Okay, not always, but sometimes. So there's a problem of bishop d2, and that's the point why black doesn't have time to take on c4, and simply the approach of the black strategy just falling apart. So my opponent here was just, I guess, very near to play queen b7, but in the last moment he saw the trick and he switched to the rook f8 variation. Of course now the threat is rook takes f3, typical exchange sacrifice, which we have to avoid obviously. So knight g5. Okay, it seems like we're letting him to exchange his bad bishop, but sometimes even passive pieces, passive bishops, are doing useful job. And in this case, this bishop was protecting pawn d6, which is a very sensible pawn now, very weak. And after bishop takes g5, already black queen will be obligated to keep protecting that pawn, which is quite annoying for such a strong piece as a queen. So obviously, my opponent goes knight b7. Yeah, it really looks like that white's position is hanging. Bishop on f5, on g5, pawn on f2, pawn on d5. But with some miracle, everything is under control because we have a monster knight on d4. And here is the critical moment when I made a mistake and lost all my advantage. Okay, I was thinking here what I need to do to stabilize the situation, be happy, and get control over the game. So obviously I need to play c4, connecting the pawn chains and stabilizing the situation in the center. How I can do it? With two options, queen d3, c4, or rook c1 and c4. So which is the better one? I thought if I would play queen d3 and then I would be able to play c4, because of the pressure of b5 pawn, in the near future, at some point, black will be forced to play b4. And then our plan is a3 to put some additional pressure over the black's position. Okay, it's not enough that there's a weak pawn, bad passive knights, but we also want to open a file for our rook. And situation becomes critical for black. So I thought, why should I play rook c1 when I need my rook on a1 to start a3 and break through for the queen side? And I thought, okay, queen d3 is the fine move. But it is a mistake. It was definitely worth it to waste the tempo, but play rook c1 and then c4. And white would be controlling the game. Doesn't give anything here, move c4, because we have quite annoying bishop e3. Yeah, knight b6 has a problems, pawn c4 also has a problems, queen c7, and now both moves like rook b1, once again creating the possibilities of the taking on c4, or even stronger according to computer, rook a1 with the a4 ideas gives white total control over the game. For instance, I want to play now a4, and okay, if, for example, he will take on b3, I'm gonna take on b5, he takes, and then queen takes on b3, and pawn b5 probably will be falling very soon. And again, after a4, if he takes on a4, probably it's just the best idea to play b4. Just for instance, I don't know, h6 or something like that, a4, take, and this is a very deep, famous strategic idea that knight gets under pawn blocking pawn structure, and this is a very bad piece. So I'm planning to take on b6, take on a4, and start taking rest of his pawns. So black pieces would be under the serious block. Okay, what happens after queen d3? Of course, I thought that he has possibility to play c4 here to stop my c4 and he wins a tempi. But I thought, okay, there's a queen d2, still bishop e3, still rook is on a1, supporting the best way, a4 breakthrough, and I'm fine. Okay, for a few seconds I thought that, yeah, maybe there's a knight c5, but I even didn't calculate it properly because I thought, okay, yeah, I will take on c5, he will get destroyed pawn structure. Isolated pawn, I'm getting passed pawn. Maybe strategically this is correct, but dynamically I'm not in time to do all that stuff. So now black is playing knight c5 and just equalizes. Knight takes c5, pawn takes c5, and everything starts hanging here. Bishop, pawn, pawn, and there's nothing. I decided to play rook d1, even though, sorry, bishop e3 first. Probably it was even slightly better to give up the pawn d5 this way. And after queen d5, there's a rook d1. We are right now pawn down, but control the open files and have some activities there. Okay, bishop e3. And now I was surprised by opponent because he makes a strange move, rook c8. I don't know why he should be doing this. Tomorrow I have a lesson with him, so I hope he will explain. So, well, anyway, I think the most natural move is queen d5. Maybe my opponent thought that it's time to take the initiative and start playing for the win, but I don't think that we made so many mistakes that we should start get punished here so quickly. So it's like equality. Rook c8, bishop d6, he takes on c3, I take on e5. There's nothing here. So, okay, strange move, rook c8. And okay, of course I'm coming to protect the pawn d5 and queen d6. Now I decided that it's time to go with the queen on e4. Thought that it's a good position, good way to activate my pieces, but still good alternative was f3 and maybe first bishop f2 with some options to go bishop g3. Well, okay, both continuations are quite normal. So queen c2 and e4. Yeah, it's a probably good move. He wants to take d5 pawn and gives up his isolated pawn. So queen takes e4, and rook takes d5. Now I played rook takes d5, but there was an interesting opportunity, still some chances to keep an upper hand with the queen g4. Okay, looking for the rook c8. For example, after rook d8, we can take on d5. Taking with the knight doesn't seem very good because of rook d1 pin. And if he takes with the queen, there is a incredible bishop takes c5. Now after queen takes c5, queen e6 check. If he plays queen f8, there is a winning maneuver. And if he plays king h8, there's a surprising b4, and suddenly black queen is overloaded, protecting knight b6 and also having an opportunity to avoid the checkmate from f8 is not possible to keep both squares. So we recover a piece and with extra pawn. But okay, this is not a forced variation, of course. Black could just take on b3 and now offer the queen exchange. Obviously queen e2. Computer still gives some little advantage to white. Maybe c4 or b4 could be possible in some points. I believe this is not too much, but still some possibilities to play on. Um, okay. Anyway, queen e4, rook takes, and I went for the rook takes d5, knight takes d5. Okay, I couldn't believe here in calculations that there's nothing happens here, but actually this is true. Rook d1, there's a knight takes e3, queens both are hanging, so black is okay. So pawn takes just c4, knight c3. Here I went for queen f5, attacking the rook. Computer shows that maybe it was better to play queen c2 with some chances, but already these chances are just like an illusions because he plays b4. Yeah, white has an option to win a pawn. Queen g6, take, 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 rook c1. But we know that rook endgames are very delicate subject. Even an extra pawn is not guaranteeing that you're gonna win, especially if opponent's rook is active. So rook d8, check, rook d2. He also starts taking the pawns here, and position probably is just drawish. So okay, anyway, there's nothing to say here much. I went for queen f5, rook e8, and suddenly I realized that there's nothing. There's no way to play here for win. Took on b5, and just came back on c2 to offer a draw because I have to calm down a little bit my ambitions here because playing for a win, violating the position in an equal situation is quite dangerous. Sometimes we lose the control, we cross the border, and just worsen our position with our own moves. So it's always good to stay objective. So okay, my opponent accepted the draw, and okay, we will go to look for a second game in the next video. See you next time. Bye bye.